What if a single desperate lie to save your dying mother reunited you with your long-lost childhood love? A bullied boy turned billionaire, pretending to be himself just to win your heart. From heartbreak and betrayal to a love that rebuilds everything, this tale will grip your soul and prove second chances are worth every twist. Welcome to the Voice of Reality. We bring you real-life stories, true, raw, and unfiltered, for people who actually want to listen and learn. If that's you, please subscribe and drop a comment with your thoughts on today's story plus where you're tuning in from. Let's go. Her name was Emma. She was just like you or me, until the day everything fell apart. Let me take you back to that moment. This happened in Seattle, at a small architecture firm called Hanson Design Studios. Emma was just trying to survive, you know? She worked long hours, sketching buildings that would never have her name on them, dreaming of the day she designed something that mattered. But life wasn't easy for Emma. Her coworkers weren't kind. There was this woman, Victoria, who made every single day miserable. Victoria would steal Emma's ideas, sabotage her presentations, and worst of all, she'd mock her. Called her Piggy Emma because Emma couldn't afford the designer clothes everyone else wore. Can you imagine going to work every day knowing someone is waiting to tear you down? Emma endured it all for one reason, her mother. Her mom was sick, really sick. Heart disease. The kind that needs surgery, the expensive kind that insurance barely covers. Emma was working herself to the bone, entering every design competition she could, hoping to win prize money for her mother's operation. Then one day, everything changed. The firm's owner, Mr. Hanson, called everyone together. He was practically bouncing with excitement. A major investor was coming to Seattle, someone who could transform their little firm into something extraordinary. His name was Alexander Kane, a 30-year-old billionaire who'd made his fortune in sustainable real estate development. He was known for transforming entire city skylines. Mr. Hanson announced a competition. Whoever brought the best design proposal would work directly with Alexander Kane on his next project. The winner would get a $100,000 bonus. Emma's heart nearly stopped. That money could save her mother's life. But then Victoria struck. She had connections, she said. Her boyfriend worked for Kane Industries. She whispered to Mr. Hanson that Emma wasn't talented enough, wasn't professional enough. And just like that, Mr. Hanson fired Emma. Right there, in front of everyone. Emma felt her world crumbling. She couldn't lose this job, not now, not when she was so close. The words came out before she could stop them. You can't fire me. Alexander Kane is my boyfriend. The room went silent. Then Victoria laughed, that cruel, mocking laugh. You? Dating a billionaire? Prove it. Bring him here tomorrow. Emma's best friend, Jessica, found her crying in the bathroom. What am I going to do? Emma sobbed. I just lied about dating one of the richest men in America. Jessica, always practical, pulled out her phone. There's this website where you can hire actors for events. Alexander Kane has been overseas for years. Nobody here knows what he looks like. There aren't even photos of him online. He's famously private. That's how Emma found herself scrolling through profiles at midnight, looking for someone who could pretend to be a billionaire. She found him. Tall, well-built, sophisticated-looking. His profile name was just AK. She sent a message. Need someone to play my boyfriend. One-day job. We'll discuss payment in person. He agreed to meet her the next evening. When Emma opened her apartment door, her breath caught. The man standing there was stunning. Sharp jawline, intense eyes, perfectly tailored clothes even though she hadn't asked him to dress up yet. There was something familiar about him, something that tugged at her memory, but she pushed the feeling aside. Hi, I'm Alex Kane, he said, a slight smile on his lips. Yes, perfect, Emma said, relieved he was getting into character already. Come in. Let me explain what I need. She told him everything. The competition, her mother, the lie. He listened quietly, his expression unreadable. When she asked about his rate, he said, 500? That's perfect, Emma said, relieved. Million, he replied. Emma's face went white. But then he laughed. I'm joking. 500 is fine. What Emma didn't know was that this man really was Alexander Kane. He'd recognized her the moment he saw her photo on the website. She was Lily, the little girl who'd protected him 20 years ago when they were children. He'd been a chubby kid that everyone picked on, and she'd been his only friend. He'd given her a necklace, a little silver pendant, and promised he'd come back for her. He never forgot her. And now, by some miracle, she'd hired him to pretend to be himself. Alexander decided not to reveal the truth. Not yet. She'd said she didn't like Alexander Kane because she'd heard he was all about money and power. He wanted her to know him as just Alex first. To fall for the person, not the fortune. The next morning, Emma brought Alex to Hansen Design Studios. Victoria nearly choked on her coffee. Mr. Hansen rushed over, practically bowing. When Victoria's boyfriend called to say the real Alexander Kane was in another meeting, Emma's heart sank. But then Alex's phone rang. "Hello," he answered. Emma had called him, not knowing what else to do. The conversation was awkward, but Alex agreed to come to the office soon. When he showed up an hour later, walking through those doors like he owned the place, Victoria turned pale. Alex's assistant, James, was with him. James confirmed everything. This was Alexander Kane. Mr. Hansen nearly fainted with joy. The contract was signed. Emma kept her job. And Alexander made one condition, that Emma be given every resource she needed to become the firm's top architect. But Emma was confused. She pulled Alex aside after everyone left. "Who are you really? You knew about the investment. You knew his assistant." "I know James through connections," Alex said smoothly. "I'm just a driver for Kane Industries. That's how I knew about everything." Emma wanted to believe him, but something didn't add up. Still, she was grateful. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved my life today." "No," Alexander thought, watching her walk away. "You saved mine 20 years ago. Now it's my turn." And that's how it all began, with a lie that would become the most complicated truth either of them had ever known. Here's the thing about pretending. The longer you do it, the harder it becomes to remember what's real. Emma found that out the hard way. Her mother's condition got worse. Emma rushed to the hospital, her hands shaking as the doctor explained that surgery couldn't wait much longer. The cost? $200,000, even with insurance. Emma felt like she was drowning. She called Alex, not knowing what else to do. "Can you come to the hospital? My mom's asking about my boyfriend, and I need her to believe everything's okay. I need her to have hope." Alexander didn't hesitate. "I'll be right there." When he walked into that hospital room, something shifted. Emma's mother, Julia, was weak, but her eyes were sharp. She studied Alex carefully. "So, you're the young man who's captured my daughter's heart." "Mrs. Morgan," Alexander said, sitting beside her bed, "your daughter is the most remarkable person I've ever met. Every day I spend with her, I fall more in love." He meant every word. Emma thought he was just acting, but her mother saw the truth in his eyes. Julia smiled, really smiled, for the first time in months. After they left the hospital, Emma was quiet. Finally, she said, "You're a really good actor." "I'm not acting," Alexander wanted to say, but instead he replied, "Your mother seems like a wonderful person."
She is.
"She's everything to me. That's why I have to win that prize money." Emma's voice cracked. "I can't lose her." Alexander made a decision right then. He called James that night. "Mrs. Julia Morgan. Transfer her to the VIP medical wing. Get the best cardiac surgeon in the country. Cover all expenses. And James? Don't tell Emma it was me." "Sir, she's going to find out eventually." "I know, but not yet. She needs to think she did this on her own." The next day, Emma got a call from the hospital. A charity foundation had covered her mother's expenses. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. Emma sobbed with relief, wondering who her guardian angel could be. Meanwhile, at the firm, things were getting complicated. A new designer arrived from New York, a woman named Isabelle Laurent. She was supposedly a rising star, fresh from studying in Paris. Mr. Hansen made Emma show her around. Isabelle was polished, confident, and cold. "So you're dating Alexander Kane," she said, not as a question but as an accusation. How convenient for someone like you. Someone like me? Emma asked. You know what I mean.
He's engaged to me, by the way.
Our families arranged it. We're announcing it next month. Emma felt like she'd been slapped. She looked at Isabel, at her designer clothes and her perfect hair and her cruel smile. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't, Isabel said smoothly. But I've been Alexander's fiancée for 2 years. We have a very healthy relationship. So whatever game you're playing, it ends now. Emma didn't tell Alex about the conversation. What was the point? He was just an actor she'd hired. This wasn't real, but it felt real. The way he looked at her felt real. The way her heart raced when he smiled felt real. They spent more time together. Alex insisted on helping her prepare for the competition. They'd sit in coffee shops, sketching designs, debating about sustainable architecture and green spaces. He understood buildings in a way that surprised her. He talked about structural integrity and environmental impact like he'd been studying it for years. How does a driver know so much about architecture? Emma asked one evening. Alexander caught himself. I read a lot. And I drive Mr. Kane to a lot of meetings. You pick things up. One night, after working late, they walked through Pike Place Market. It was raining, that soft Seattle rain that feels like mist. Alex bought Emma a coffee, and they stood under an awning, watching the city lights reflect on the wet pavement. Can I ask you something? Emma said. Why are you really doing this? Helping me? Because you deserve help, Alexander said simply. Because you're kind and talented, and you've been fighting alone for too long. Emma looked up at him. Rain droplets caught in her hair. I feel like I know you from somewhere. Like we've met before. Alexander's heart hammered. This was his chance to tell her. To explain everything. But then his phone buzzed. A text from his mother. Family dinner tomorrow. Isabel will be there. Don't be late. The moment passed. We should get you home, he said instead. But that night, as Emma lay in bed, she couldn't stop thinking about Alex. About the way he made her feel safe. About how, for the first time in years, she wasn't facing the world alone. She touched the silver necklace she always wore, the one from childhood, and whispered, Where are you now, Coco? I could really use my old friend right now. 3 blocks away, in a penthouse suite, Alexander stood at the window, holding an identical silver pendant. I'm right here, Lily, he whispered to the night. I've always been here. The next evening, Emma made a decision. She called Alex. I need to tell you something. This arrangement, us pretending, I think we should end it. The competition's review phase ends tomorrow. I'll tell Mr. Hansen we broke up. It's cleaner this way. Why? Alexander asked, his voice tight. Because it's getting too complicated. Because every time I see you, it gets harder to remember this isn't real. Because I'm starting to feel things I shouldn't feel for someone I'm paying to pretend to care about me. There was a long silence. Then Alexander said, What if I'm not pretending? What if everything I've said and done has been real? Emma's breath caught. Don't say things like that. You don't mean it. I've never meant anything more in my life. I have to go, Emma whispered and hung up. She cried that night, curled up in bed, knowing she was doing the right thing but hating every second of it. Love wasn't supposed to feel like this, like losing something before you ever really had it. Alexander stood on her doorstep for an hour, hand raised to knock, trying to find the courage to tell her everything. But he couldn't. Not yet. Not when she was about to face the biggest challenge of her career. Tomorrow, at the firm, everything would come to a head. Isabel had been planning something. Alexander's assistant had warned him. Whatever it was, it wouldn't be good. He went home and made 2 calls. One to James. I need you to investigate Isabel Lauron. Everything. Her design portfolio, her credentials, everything. The second call was to his mother. The engagement is off. I don't care what agreements you made. I'm in love with someone else. Who? His mother demanded. Someone real. Someone who sees me as a person, not a bank account. And I'm not losing her again. As dawn broke over Seattle, 3 people lay awake. Emma, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. Alexander, preparing for a battle. and Isabel, smiling as she finalized her plan to destroy Emma once and for all. The stage was set. The truth was about to explode. And nothing would ever be the same again. Some days start ordinary and end with your whole world turning upside down. For Emma, that day was the firm-wide presentation for the Kane Industries partnership. She arrived early, her portfolio clutched to her chest like armor. The design she created was called Never Give Up, a series of eco-friendly residential buildings designed to provide affordable housing without sacrificing beauty or sustainability. Every line, every angle represented the struggles she'd overcome. This wasn't just architecture. This was her heart on paper. Isabel was already there, holding court with Mr. Hanson. She looked radiant in a cream designer suit, every inch the successful architect. When she saw Emma, her smile turned predatory. "Emma, darling, you're just in time. I was about to present my new design series. I call it Never Give Up." Emma's blood ran cold. "What did you say?" "My design. The one I've been working on for months." Isabel laid out blueprints on the conference table. They were identical to Emma's work. Every single detail. "Those are mine," Emma said, her voice shaking. "I designed those. You stole them." "Stole them?" Isabel laughed, a tinkling, condescending sound. "I think you're confused. These designs bear my signature style. Everyone knows I studied under François Moreau in Paris. This is clearly my work." Mr. Hanson looked uncomfortable. "Emma, these accusations are serious." "I can prove it," Emma said desperately. "I have the original sketches. I posted early concepts on my old design blog years ago." "A blog with one follower?" Isabel scoffed. "You've been copying from my portfolio, which is public." "Nice try." Emma felt like she was suffocating. Everything she'd worked for, stolen. And worse, no one believed her. She looked around the room at her co-workers' faces. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked away. That's when Alex walked in. Except he wasn't dressed like a driver. He was in an immaculate suit, radiating authority. Behind him was James and a woman Emma didn't recognize but who carried herself like she owned the world. "What's going on here?" Alex asked, his voice cold. Mr. Hanson jumped up. "Mr. Kane, we weren't expecting you until this afternoon." The room went silent. Emma's head spun. "Mr. Kane?" "This is Isabel Laurent," Mr. Hanson continued, gesturing nervously. "The designer I told you about. She's just presented her new series, Never Give Up. I think you'll be impressed by." "That design was created by Emma Morgan," Alexander said flatly. "Isabel is a fraud." Isabel's face went white, then red. "Excuse me? Alexander, what are you talking about? We're engaged." "Tell them this is a misunderstanding." "We were never engaged," Alexander said. "My mother arranged meetings. I never agreed to anything." He turned to James, who pulled out a tablet. "Everyone, please look at the screen. This is Emma's design blog, created 4 years ago. Here are the original sketches for Never Give Up, dated and time-stamped. Now, here is Isabel's portfolio. Notice anything?" The similarities were undeniable. Not just similar, identical in places. But Emma's were older, rougher, clearly the originals. "Furthermore," James continued, "we've discovered that Ms. Laurent's credentials are fabricated. She attended design school in Paris, yes, but she failed out after 1 semester. Her entire portfolio consists of designs stolen from emerging artists who posted their work online." Isabel lunged forward. "You can't prove that." "Alexander, tell them. Tell them you love me." "I don't even know you," Alexander said quietly. Then he looked at Emma, really looked at her, his eyes full of emotion. "The only woman I've ever loved is standing right here. The one I've loved since we were children." Emma's world tilted. What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm Alexander Kane. I'm also the boy you used to call Coco. 20 years ago, you were the only person who was kind to me. You protected me when everyone else was cruel. I gave you a necklace and promised I'd come back for you." Emma's hand flew to her throat, to the silver pendant she always wore.
"No.
"That's not, you can't be." "I am," Alexander said, stepping closer. I've been looking for you for 20 years. When you hired me, I recognized you immediately. I should have told you the truth, but you said you didn't like Alexander Kane. You thought he was just about money and power. I wanted you to know me first, the real me. You lied to me, Emma whispered.
This whole time you lied.
I did. And I'm sorry. But everything else was real. Every feeling, every word, every moment we spent together. That was all real. Emma backed away, tears streaming down her face. I trusted you. I told you everything. And you were just what? Playing some kind of game? No game. I love you. I've always loved you. How can I believe anything you say? Emma's voice broke. How can I believe any of this is real when our entire relationship started with lies? The woman who'd entered with Alexander stepped forward. She was older, elegant, and her eyes were kind. Emma, I'm Diana Kane, Alexander's mother. I owe you an apology. I'm the one who offered you money to leave my son. What? Emma stared at her. I gave you a check for $50,000. I wanted you to leave Alexander alone. I thought you were after his money. But you never cashed it, did you? Emma's mind raced back. That check from a stranger, left at her apartment door. She'd thrown it away, thinking it was some kind of scam. I don't want anyone's money. I never did. I know that now, Diana said softly. My son has been talking about a little girl named Lily for 20 years. The girl who saved him from bullies. The girl who saw him as a person, not as the fat kid or the rich kid, just as Coco. I didn't realize you were her until yesterday. And I'm sorry for interfering. Mr. Hanson cleared his throat. Ms. Laurent, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Security will escort you out. Isabel's perfect composure cracked. This isn't over, she hissed at Emma. You think you've won, but… It's over, Alexander said firmly. Leave now, or I'll press charges for fraud and theft. As security led Isabel away, Emma stood frozen in the center of the room. Everyone was staring at her. The truth was out. She was dating Alexander Kane. Except she wasn't, was she? It was all fake. Or was it? Emma, Alexander said gently. Can we talk? Please. I don't know what to say to you. I don't even know who you are. I'm Coco. I'm the boy who gave you his lunch money because you forgot yours. I'm the boy who you taught to be brave. I'm the man who's been searching for you in every woman he's ever met. And I'm the man who's completely, desperately in love with you. Emma wanted to believe him. Every fiber of her being wanted to fall into his arms and forgive everything. But the hurt was too deep. I need time, she said finally. I need to think. Take all the time you need, Alexander said. I'll wait. I've waited 20 years. I can wait longer. But as Emma walked out of that conference room, she felt like she was leaving something precious behind. And she had no idea if she'd ever find the courage to reach for it again. Have you ever felt like your heart was breaking and mending at the same time? That's where Emma lived for the next week. In that impossible space between hurt and hope. Her mother's surgery was successful. When Emma arrived at the hospital, Julia was in a private suite, recovering under the care of the best cardiologist on the West Coast. The nurse explained that everything had been covered by a private donation. Do you know who paid for this? Emma asked. The nurse smiled. The donor wanted to remain anonymous, but between you and me, it was someone who cares about you very much. Emma knew. Of course she knew. Alexander had been helping her from the very beginning, even before she'd known who he really was. She sat by her mother's bedside, holding her hand. Mom, I messed everything up. Julia, still weak but alert, squeezed back. Tell me, sweetheart. Emma told her everything. The lie, the fake relationship, discovering Alex was really Alexander, the hurt and betrayal and confusion. When she finished, she was crying. Do you love him? Julia asked simply. That's the problem. I don't know if what I felt was real, or if I just fell in love with the character he was playing. Let me tell you something, Julia said. People can hide their names and their bank accounts and their fancy titles, but they can't hide their hearts. Not really. When he sat in this room and told me he loved you, I saw the truth in his eyes. That wasn't acting, Emma. That was a man who'd found something precious. But he lied to me. Yes, he did. And that was wrong. But hasn't he spent every moment since then trying to make it right? Hasn't he protected you and supported you and put your needs before his own?
Emma thought about this.
About Alex bringing her coffee when she worked late. About him standing up to Isabel. About him waiting patiently while she figured out her feelings. Never pressuring, just waiting. What if I can't trust him again? Emma whispered.
Then you tell him that.
You be honest. And you see what he does with that honesty. Love isn't about never making mistakes, baby. It's about how you fix them together. Meanwhile, Alexander was drowning in his own regrets. He threw himself into work, but nothing helped. Every building he designed felt empty. Every meeting felt meaningless. He'd found her, his Lily, after 20 years of searching, and he'd driven her away with his lies. James tried to help. Boss, maybe you should go talk to her. She asked for time. I'm giving her time. Time or space. Because space is what happens when you're too scared to fight for something. Alexander looked at his oldest friend. What if I fight, and she still says no? Then at least you'll know. But right now, you're both miserable. Do something about it. The breaking point came at the Seattle Architecture Gala, a week after the confrontation. It was the biggest event of the year, where the city's design community gathered. Emma had to attend because she'd been nominated for an Emerging Architect Award. Alexander had to attend because he was the keynote speaker. Emma wore a simple black dress, her hair pulled back. She looked beautiful and sad, and Alexander's heart ached when he saw her across the ballroom. Isabel was there too, incredibly. She'd crashed the event, her reputation in tatters, but her pride intact. When she saw Emma, she grabbed a glass of wine and marched over. Enjoying your victory? Isabel hissed. You destroyed my career. You destroyed your own career by stealing other people's work, Emma said quietly. You think you're so much better than me? You're just a charity case he felt sorry for. A nobody he pitied. Something snapped in Emma then. Not anger, but clarity. You know what? I am a charity case. My mom was sick and I couldn't afford her surgery. I work in a firm where people look down on me because I buy my clothes at thrift stores. And I lied about dating a billionaire because I was desperate. But I never stole anyone's work. I never pretended to be something I'm not for professional gain. And I never took credit for someone else's talent. How noble, Isabel sneered. Let's see how noble you feel when. That's enough. Alexander appeared beside them, his presence commanding. Isabel, you need to leave. You chose her? Really? What can she possibly give you that I can't? Alexander looked at Emma, and his voice softened. Everything. She gives me everything. Isabel threw her wine at Emma's dress and stormed off. Emma stood there, wine dripping down her front, feeling humiliated and exposed. The entire ballroom. Alexander gently took Emma's hand. Come on. He led her out of the ballroom, through the hotel corridors, to a small balcony overlooking the city. The night air was cool. Seattle stretched out below them, a million lights reflecting their own small drama. I'm sorry, Alexander said. For all of it. For lying to you. For not telling you the truth from the beginning. For every moment of pain I caused you. Why didn't you just tell me? Emma asked. When I hired you, why didn't you just say, hey, I'm actually the real Alexander Kane? Because you said you didn't like him. You'd heard he was all about money and power, and you wanted nothing to do with that. And I realized that every woman I'd ever dated only saw the fortune, never the person.
But you saw me.
Just me. And it was the most precious thing anyone had ever given me. But that wasn't real. That was a character you played. No, Alexander said fiercely. That was me.
The real me.
The me without the armor and the title and all the barriers I put up to protect myself. You met the boy I was, Coco, before the world told him he had to be someone else. And I fell in love with you all over again. Or maybe I never stopped loving you in the first place. Emma felt tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to do this. How to trust you again. Then let me earn it back. However long it takes. Whatever you need. I'll wait. What if I can't get past this? Then I'll live with that pain for the rest of my life, knowing I lost the only person who ever truly saw me. Emma looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time since learning the truth, she didn't see Alexander Kane, billionaire. She saw Coco, the little boy who'd shared his lunch with her. She saw Alex, the man who'd held her hand during her mother's surgery. She saw all of him, the truth and the lies and the love underneath it all. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too, Alexander admitted. I'm terrified of losing you again. Then don't, Emma said. Don't lose me. And don't lie to me ever again. Never. I promise. They stood there on that balcony, the city lights blurring through their tears, and slowly, carefully, Emma let herself fall into his arms. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning. I still need time, she said against his chest. I know, and we need to start over. Really start over with honesty. Whatever you need. Emma pulled back to look at him. Hi, I'm Emma Morgan. I'm an architect who buys her coffee at corner stores and wears thrift store dresses and who's been in love with her childhood friend for longer than she wants to admit. Alexander smiled, that genuine smile that made him look like Coco again. Hi, I'm Alexander Kane. I'm a billionaire who's been searching for the girl who saved him for 20 years. And I'm completely, irrevocably in love with her. Well, Emma said, the smallest smile tugging at her lips, I guess we should probably go on a proper first date then. One where we're both honest about who we are. I'd like that very much. They went back to the gala together, hand in hand. And when Emma won the Emerging Architect Award that night, Alexander was the first person to stand and applaud, his pride and love visible to everyone in the room. The healing had begun. And sometimes, that's all love needs. A crack in the armor to let the light back in. 3 months later, Emma stood in front of the Seattle Design Competition finals, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. This was it, the biggest moment of her career. The panel of judges included some of the most respected architects in the country, and sitting among them was someone unexpected, Diana Kane, Alexander's mother. Emma's design project, Sanctuary, was a revolutionary approach to homeless shelters. Not grim institutional buildings, but beautiful, dignified spaces with gardens and community centers and transitional housing. It was architecture with a heart, and it represented everything Emma believed in. As she presented, she spoke not just about load-bearing walls and sustainable materials, but about people, about dignity, about how the spaces we create shape the lives within them. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. But there was one more presenter, a well-known architect from New York who'd been the favorite to win. Then, just as the judges were about to deliberate, someone stood up. It was Isabel. I have an accusation to make, Isabel announced, her voice carrying across the auditorium. Emma Morgan plagiarized that design. It's based on a concept I developed 2 years ago. I have the original sketches to prove it. Emma's stomach dropped. Not again.
Not now.
But before she could defend herself, Alexander stood. That's a lie, and I can prove it. He walked to the stage, and James handed him a tablet. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 months ago, Isabel Lauron was exposed for plagiarizing designs from emerging artists. What you don't know is how extensive her theft was. She's made a career of finding talented people without platforms and stealing their work. Images flashed on the screen, Emma's old blog posts, time-stamped and dated. Comparison images showing how Isabel had copied not just Emma's work, but dozens of other designers over the years. Furthermore, Alexander continued, we've been building a case against Ms. Lauron for fraud. She's here today not to expose Emma, but to try one last desperate attempt to salvage her reputation by destroying someone else's. Security moved toward Isabel, but she backed away, pointing at Emma. You think you've won? You think he really loves you? He's just using you, like he uses everyone. Diana Kane stood then, her voice calm but firm. Young woman, I've watched my son for 3 months fall more in love with Emma every single day. I've watched him become the man I always hoped he'd be because she inspires him to be better. You know nothing about love if you think it's about using people. Isabel was escorted out, still shouting accusations. The room buzzed with shock and gossip. The head judge called for order. Given these circumstances, he said, we need to review all entries before making a decision. We'll announce the winner tomorrow. Emma felt numb as she left the stage. Alexander caught up with her in the hallway. Are you okay? He asked. I'm tired, Emma said honestly. I'm tired of fighting, of proving myself, of always being questioned.
I know, and I'm sorry.
But it's almost over. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She went to her mother's house, climbing into bed beside Julia like she had as a child. What if I don't win? Emma whispered in the dark. Then you keep designing, Julia said simply. You keep being brilliant. You keep changing the world one building at a time. Emma, you've already won. You've got your health, your talent, a man who adores you, and a future full of possibility. Everything else is just bonus. The next day, Emma sat in the auditorium, Alexander beside her. When the head judge announced that Emma had won first place, she couldn't even process it at first. Alexander had to nudge her to stand. Emma Morgan, the judge said, your work demonstrates not just technical excellence, but profound humanity. You don't just design buildings. You design hope. Congratulations. The applause was deafening. Emma walked to the stage in a daze, accepted the award, and looked out at the crowd. Her eyes found Alexander, and he was crying, openly and unashamedly, his pride in her radiating across the room. Later, at the celebration, Diana approached Emma. I need to apologize to you properly, she said. When Alexander first mentioned you, I thought you were just another person trying to use my son for his money. I was wrong. You see him more clearly than anyone ever has. He makes it easy, Emma said softly. He's a good man. He's a good man because of people like you. Because somewhere along the way, a little girl taught him that kindness matters more than wealth. That evening, Alexander took Emma to a place she'd never been, a construction site on the edge of the city. It was dark except for temporary lights illuminating a foundation. What is this? Emma asked, confused. This, Alexander said, taking her hand, is your design. Sanctuary. We broke ground 2 weeks ago. It's going to be the first of 10 buildings across the country. Your vision, Emma. Your dream of giving people dignity and hope through architecture. It's happening. Emma stared at the construction site, tears streaming down her face. You did this? We did this. Your design, my resources. That's how it should be. Partners. Alexander, I don't know what to say. He turned to face her, and in the dim light, she could see he was nervous. Really nervous. Then don't say anything yet. Just listen. He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 things, a silver necklace, identical to the one Emma wore, and a small box. 20 years ago, Alexander began, his voice shaking slightly, I was a scared, lonely kid who thought the world was cruel. Then I met a girl named Lily. She shared her lunch with me. She stood up to bullies for me. She made me believe I was worth something. On my last day before my family moved away, I gave her this necklace and promised I'd come back for her. Emma touched the pendant at her throat, the one she'd worn every day for 20 years. I spent 2 decades looking for you, Alexander continued. I built an empire, but nothing felt complete because you weren't in it. Then, by some miracle, you walked back into my life. And I was so scared of losing you again that I made the biggest mistake of my life. I lied about who I was. Alexander, please let me finish. I know I hurt you. I know trust doesn't come easy after what I did. But Emma, you're the only person who has ever seen me. Not my bank account, not my last name, just me. You fell in love with Coco, with the driver, with the person underneath all the armor. And that's the greatest gift anyone has ever given me. He opened the small box. Inside was a ring, simple and elegant, with a design that Emma recognized immediately. It was from her own sketch, a concept she'd drawn years ago and posted on her old blog, a design she'd called Forever. "I had this made from your design," Alexander said, "because everything I want to build, everything I want to create, I want to do it with you. Emma Morgan, you saved me when we were children, and you've been saving me every day since you came back into my life. Will you marry me?" Emma looked at the ring, at the man kneeling before her, at the construction site that represented her dreams becoming reality. She thought about the journey that had brought them here, the lies and the truth, the pain and the healing, the fear and the love. "Do you remember what you told me when we were kids?" Emma asked softly. "After I stood up to those bullies for you?" Alexander smiled through his tears. "I said, I'm going to grow up and do something amazing, and I'm going to come back and make you proud." "You did," Emma whispered. "You came back. You kept your promise, Coco." "Is that a yes?"
Yes.
"Yes, I'll marry you. I'll design buildings with you and argue about sustainable materials and grow old with you and never, ever let you forget who you really are underneath all that expensive tailoring." Alexander stood and slipped the ring onto her finger, and when he kissed her, it felt like coming home after a long journey. It felt like every moment of pain had been worth it to arrive at this perfect point. They stood there on that construction site, surrounded by the skeleton of something beautiful they were building together, and Emma realized something profound. Love isn't about perfection. It's not about never making mistakes or never getting hurt. Love is about finding someone who sees you, really sees you, and chooses you anyway. It's about building something together from broken pieces and making it stronger than it ever was before. "I love you, Lily," Alexander whispered against her hair. "I love you too, Coco," Emma whispered back. 6 months later, they stood in that same spot. But now, instead of a construction site, there was a beautiful building. Sanctuary's grand opening was attended by hundreds of people, city officials, community members, and most importantly, the families who would make it their temporary home while they rebuilt their lives. Emma's mother, fully recovered and glowing with health, cut the ribbon. "My daughter used to tell me she wanted to design buildings that mattered," Julia said to the crowd. "Today, she's done exactly that. This is more than architecture. This is love made visible." Alexander stood beside Emma, holding her hand. They were married now, a small ceremony with just family and close friends. Emma had worn a simple dress and insisted on designing their wedding rings herself. They'd honeymooned by visiting construction sites for 5 more sanctuary projects across the country. As the sun set over Seattle, casting golden light across the building's facade, Emma thought about how far she'd come. From a struggling architect drowning in medical bills to a woman who was changing lives through her designs. From someone who thought she'd never find love to someone who'd found her childhood friend and soulmate. "What are you thinking about?" Alexander asked. "I'm thinking about second chances," Emma said. "About how life has a way of bringing people back together when they're meant to be. Do you ever regret it? The lies, the complications, all the pain we went through?" Emma considered this.
No.
Because all of it, even the painful parts, brought us here. To this moment, to this life we're building together. "Speaking of building," Alexander said with a smile, "I have something to show you." He pulled out blueprints. "I've been working on something. A community center to go with Sanctuary. But I need an architect. The best architect I know. Are you interested?" Emma laughed, that free, joyful laugh that Alexander loved more than anything. "Always. I'm always interested in building something beautiful with you." And that's the thing about love, isn't it? It's not the fairy tale we're sold as children, where everything is perfect from the beginning. Real love is messy and complicated, and sometimes painful. It's about 2 imperfect people choosing each other over and over, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Emma and Alexander's story started with a lie, but it became the truest thing in both their lives. Because underneath all the deception, there was something authentic. 2 people who'd been searching for each other without even knowing it, who'd found each other against all odds, and who chose to build something beautiful together. They faced challenges, of course. There were days when the past hurt resurfaced, when trust felt fragile, when the differences in their backgrounds created tension. But they worked through it, together with honesty and patience and a commitment to choosing love even when it was difficult. Emma continued designing buildings that changed lives. Alexander continued using his resources to make her visions reality. Together, they created a foundation that funded affordable housing projects around the world, always with Emma's philosophy at the core. Architecture should give people dignity, hope, and beauty. And on quiet evenings, when they sat together in their home overlooking the city, Alexander would play with the silver pendant around Emma's neck, and she would touch the matching one he wore, and they'd remember two lonely children who'd found friendship in a cruel world. "Thank you," Alexander would whisper, "for seeing me." "Thank you," Emma would whisper back, "for coming back for me." Because that's what love does. It sees you. It comes back for you. It builds something beautiful from broken pieces. And if you're very lucky, it transforms your whole world. Emma Morgan and Alexander Kane built more than buildings together. They built a life, a legacy, and a love story that proved that sometimes the best things in life are worth waiting for, worth fighting for, and worth believing in, even when the path there is complicated and painful. They lived, they loved, they created beauty in the world. And in the end, isn't that what we're all trying to do? To find someone who sees us, truly sees us, and loves us anyway? To build something meaningful with the time we're given? To transform pain into purpose and loneliness into connection? That's Emma and Alexander's story. That's the story of two souls who found each other twice, once as children, once as adults, and who chose, every single day, to keep finding each other, over and over again. And they lived not perfectly but honestly, not without struggle, but with commitment. Not in a fairy tale, but in something even better, a real, beautiful, complicated, absolutely true love.
The end.
If this story touched your heart, the journey of Emma, who started with a desperate lie to save her mother's life, faced betrayal and stolen dreams, yet found her childhood friend Coco, now Alexander Kane, waiting all along, please hit that like button and subscribe to The Voice of Reality.